Let's dive into something good like NXT. So, well, before we dive into NXT, let's talk about some new potential signings for WWE, which is Motor City Machine Guns. Now, if you're not familiar with this tag team, that's okay. They are very, very well thought of in the wrestling community. They had a long run. They're mostly known for their TNA run, but they've worked in Ring of Honor. They worked in New Japan. They even had a pay-per-view match at AEW, all over the indie scenes, very popular. In their early 40s, been around the block, well respected, and some feel that they're still one of the best, if not the best tag team in the world. Well, according to some of the reporters out there, like Dave and Sean Rossap, is apparently he's leaning towards going to WWE, or they are, as a team, two people. They're leaning toward going to WWE, which will be a huge get for the company. So this is huge for them because the WWE tag team division needs a little bit of a boost, whether that's NXT or the main roster, needs some type of energy there. And these two are still very good, even though they're older, they can still go. And so that's just something to think about. A lot of excitement about them going. Now, there's some people who are disappointed to say, oh, well, it's probably a better fit for AEW, so why are they going to WWE? Well, I would say this. Look at the champions in WWE right now. Who are the champions? DIY, Ciampa and Johnny Gargano, Axiom and Nathan Frazier, and then Finn Balor and JD McDonough. If you're familiar with this style, with their style, and like their influence in the wrestling community, if you're aware of that, they fall right in line with that. They're not taking on Kane and Undertaker here, okay? These tag teams are right in line with their style, and it kind of fit in well with the tag team scene, especially with DIY, and even with Axiom and Nathan Frazier. Perfect time for them to head in here. Vince McMahon era, no. With Triple H era, yeah, that tag team would fit in well. Probably, maybe have a better run in AEW in terms of matchups, maybe, potentially. In my mind, AEW is a very high budget indie. And these guys are very much indie guys in a way, even though they had a huge run in TNA, right? They have that flavor, you know what I'm talking about, that indie flavor, you know. So that fits in with AEW, the high budget indie show, that is AEW. But if they're going to dive into WWE, they've been everywhere. They had an AEW match, TNA, New Japan, Ring of Honor. If you're going to do it, now's the time. With the current landscape, with the current champions, with Triple H at the helm, now is the time to do it. Apparently, according to reports, we don't know for sure, but according to what we're hearing, they are going to dive into WWE World. And that'll be interesting to see how they get on with the WWE. Let me just make sure I say this. It's not official. What I'm saying is not official. It's believed they're going to head to the WWE. I bring that up because some people are talking about potentially them going to NXT first. And with that came in this conversation about, oh, they're too good for NXT. And that kind of sparked my mind because we're hearing the same thing about Julia and about Stephanie Vaquer. Oh, don't go to NXT. I'm gonna be mad if they go there. Or if they do go there, it's for a short stint. Maybe 6 months to a year, then they're out of there. Because they gotta get out of NXT because they're too good for that brand. I wanted to talk about that specifically when it comes to NXT and that narrative. That some talent is too good for NXT. NXT, I believe, is heading down the route of a third brand. Why? Why do I say that? Well, first of all, CW deal. That is a $100 million deal, I believe. It's a 5-year deal. Sources close to the deal peg the value of the deal about $20 to $25 million a year. $20 to $25 million. That's a total of around what? Over $100 million for the entirety of the damn deal. That didn't scream to me developmental brand. Oh, the kiddies are training to, that doesn't scream to me that. When you're selling your brand to a buyer or for a distributor like CW, you don't tell them, oh, this is where the kids go to train and develop. No, you're not selling it like that. I have a hard time believing they went to CW and said, hey, CW, you got this brand we want to sell to you, get the rights to, right? And it's going to be like a bunch of kids on there, just training, level up stuff, just, developmental. No, that's not how they sold it to them. And I believe based on what Nick Khan said last year, if you remember, Nick Khan, I think it was June of 2023, which was last year, he said, and I quote, to the Hollywood Reporter, "We think NXT has the viability to be its own standalone brand, instead of just a developmental system, a third brand, if you will." So he's literally saying a third brand. He's literally talking about it being standalone. And he says that it's a place where we're going to have crossover from SmackDown and Raw and still develop talent. That's what he said. And still develop talent. So if you're going to push NXT as a third brand, according to Nick Khan, and the evidence speaks to that, considering what they're doing, bringing in TNA talent, trying to hype up Joe Hendry. If they were just interested in a developmental system and like showing off the kids, they would not be bothering to bring in Joe Hendry, who is not doing anything for developmental. He's there to bring ratings. He's hot. We're gonna bring him in. The fans want to see him. It has nothing to do with developmental at all. Him beating freaking what's his face in the damn main event? I can't remember who he pinned. Sean Spears. That's not developmental. Bringing in Ethan Page. That's not developmental. They are trying to create a brand here that is standalone that folks will flock to beyond developmental. Julia, Stephanie Faker, potentially bringing in Motor City Machine Guns. This is going to be a viable third brand that's legitimate, that they're going to push as so. So it's not so much, oh, got to get out of there, get out of NXT. Don't send them to NXT because, you know, the kids are going to be down there. No, it's going to be a legitimate third brand, I feel, based on what Nick Khan said, that they want to elevate that brand, bring ratings. So I think having veterans on the show who can go, who are established, is not a bad thing. And it's not going to hurt their credibility or their standing in the wrestling world, okay? You can send wrestlers like Julia, like Stephanie Faker, you can send them down there and they will help to elevate the brand. And as long as they're treating it like a third brand, I don't see the problem. Hell, NXT is more entertaining than SmackDown. So I just wanted to address that issue. Folks seem to be concerned about talent going to NXT. Now, some may say, well, at one point, they wanted to be a third brand. Then they said it wasn't a third brand, but now it's going to be a third brand again. That's kind of confusing. Well, I would say Vince is gone. This is a new era, TKO era. You got Triple H at the helm. Shawn Michaels is here. It's a new day. Nick Khan pulling the strings. It's a new day for NXT. So the third brand situation is different than it was before. I do believe, based on what I'm seeing here, based on the TV deal, based on the talent they're signing and sending to NXT, based on it being on CW, and based on I think even the CW folks said they wanted to grow the audience. They want to grow the audience of NXT. That screams to me third brand more than just a developmental. So I don't think folks need to be worried about talent going to NXT as long as the matches are good, as long as the product is good. And a lot of time, honestly, you're better off. I said it all the time. I'm like a broken record. You're better off in NXT sometimes than being on the main roster, depending on the situation, depending on who you are, right? If you're Roxanne Perez, you're better off than Candice LeRae, all right? You're probably better off than Michin. You're probably better off than maybe Zoe Stark? I don't know. But like I said, being at the top of NXT is better than being at the mid-card or low mid-card on main roster. Look at Kiana James. No one knows what she's doing, all right? So that's all I want to say. NXT, viable brand, third brand is coming, especially with CW. So stop shitting on that brand, especially considering the TNA talent coming in, what they're doing, the excitement. It's something to watch and be excited about. So stop poo-pooing it when you hear that talent might be going down there or down there. Going to NXT is not a problem. That's all I'm saying.
Kip up!